They put my grandfather's cabin up for sale while I was pouring concrete on a job site 2 counties over. My phone buzzed with a photo from old Mrs. Evelyn next door, strangers in shiny suits measuring the deck like it was already theirs, a realtor in 4-inch heels waving a clipboard and laughing like she'd just won the lottery. My coffee went cold in the truck cup holder as my knuckles turned white around the steering wheel. Then the voicemail hit, sweet as poison, from HOA President Regina Hawthorne herself. Just exploring community enhancement opportunities, Ethan. You understand, right? No, Regina. I don't understand how you auction off a house you don't own. But here's what I do understand: how to wait, how to watch, and how to bury someone with the same paperwork they tried to bury me with. Let me back up before you grab the popcorn. Name's Ethan Caldwell. That little lakeside cabin has been in my family since 1982, when Grandpa Hank came home from Vietnam missing half his hearing and all his patience for bullies. He built every square inch himself: rough-cut pine beams, hand-mixed concrete foundation, even the quirky stone fireplace that still smells like cherry wood on cold nights. Nobody can take what you hammer together with your own 2 hands, boy, he used to growl while we stained the porch railings. The scent of turpentine and his cheap cigars still clings to the wood after all these years. Grandpa died last winter. Left the place to me and my 14-year-old daughter Lily, the only safe spot she has when her mom and I are still figuring out the divorce. I drive 2 hours every weekend just to sit on that porch, listen to the loons, and remember what peace feels like after 60-hour weeks dodging jackhammers and yelling foremen. The cabin predates the HOA by 30 solid years. Grandpa's deed is ironclad. But 2 years ago, Regina Hawthorne rolled into Willow Lake Estates in her white Mercedes, fresh from California, and decided our quaint little neighborhood needed elevating. Translation: price out anyone whose car costs less than her monthly Botox bill. She started small. Citation for my non-conforming rustic workshop. Apparently hand-built craftsmanship offends her curated Pinterest aesthetic. 15 grand in architectural compliance fees. Or tear it down and rebuild to match the McMansions. I told her exactly where she could file those fees, in language Grandpa would have toasted with a beer. She smiled that tight little smile and said, "We're all about community standards, Ethan. Surely you understand." That was 6 months ago. Last week the realtor circus showed up. Regina's sorority sister from USC, marketing the place as prime tear-down opportunity with lakefront potential. They were literally standing in my kitchen discussing a yoga studio where Grandpa's workshop used to be. Dark humor, right? The woman who preaches family values was ready to bulldoze a war hero's legacy for Instagram-worthy square footage. I didn't yell. I didn't call the cops. I just smiled back at the realtor and said, "Enjoy the tour, ladies. I'll be seeing you in court." Then I drove straight to the county clerk's office during lunch. The basement smelled like old paper and broken dreams, but Clerk Beverly lit up when she saw Grandpa's file. Hank Caldwell. That man knew how to file paperwork. She slid the original 1982 survey across the counter. My heart did a slow roll. The property line extended 40 feet farther north than anyone, including Regina, realized. The fancy HOA community mailbox cluster she was so proud of, sitting square in the middle of my land. And buried in the fine print: perpetual grandfathered rights, no HOA retroactive authority. I almost laughed out loud in that dusty room. All those ruler measuring sessions, all those $500 daily fines she threatened, legally worthless. But I didn't tip my hand. Not yet. That evening, Mrs. Evelyn knocked with fresh banana bread and a manila folder thick enough to stop a bullet. "That Hawthorne woman offered me $200 to photograph your violations, honey." She handed me timestamps, recordings, copies of letters she'd sent other families. The Morrison place forced to sell after endless fence fines. The Patel family ticketed for parking their work van in their own driveway. "She's clearing out anyone who doesn't match her aesthetic," Evelyn whispered, eyes sharp as a retired principal's. But I've been keeping receipts. 30 years running a high school taught me how to spot a bully with a clipboard. She grinned like a wolf in cardigan. "Oh, and one more thing. Your HOA Queens California law license? Suspended for creative accounting. Mortgage 3 months behind." She's not a president. She's a desperate grifter in heels. That night, I installed motion cameras at every corner, professional grade, the kind we use on job sites to catch copper thieves. If Regina wanted to play spy games, I'd play with better toys. 2 weeks later, Regina escalated. Formal letter on fancy letterhead. Notice of abandoned property. My weekend-only use supposedly triggered municipal code blah blah. Daily $500 fines unless I moved in full-time or signed the deed over for community benefit. Copied to the county commissioner, her tennis partner, naturally. I read it on the porch while Lily practiced violin inside. The loons called across the water like they were laughing at her. I folded the paper neatly and started making calls. The code enforcement truck rolled up exactly 1 week later. Harold the inspector looked like he'd rather be anywhere else, clipboard shaking in the breeze. Regina stepped out behind him in full power suit armor, perfume thick enough to choke a horse. Mr. Caldwell, Harold mumbled. Complaints about unpermitted structures. That workshop may require immediate remediation. Remediation. 25 grand or demolition in 30 days. Grandpa's pride and joy, built to outlast hurricanes, suddenly unsafe. I didn't explode. I pulled out my phone, started recording nice and obvious. Harold, mind showing me the exact code sections this 40-year-old building violates? Harold sweated. Regina's smile twitched like a bad Botox job. That afternoon, I tracked down Jimmy Kowalski, the original contractor, 74, sharp as a framing nail. Hank Caldwell? Hell yes, I remember. Made me redo the footings twice because he was off by a quarter inch. That shop could survive a nuclear winter. Jimmy still had the 1983 permits, inspections, everything. Harold called me that night, voice low. Off the record, Ethan, those citations are bogus. Regina's been leaning on me for months. Campaign donations, fundraisers with strings attached. He promised to back me if I filed a formal complaint. Then the security footage dropped the real bomb. At 2:13 a.m., Regina crept across my lawn in black yoga pants, carrying decorative flower pots. She placed them deliberately, measured with a tape, photographed everything, planting evidence of encroachment so she could claim I was the one violating lines. Except Grandpa's survey put those pots 15 feet inside my property. Criminal trespass. Attempted fraud. I forwarded the clip to my attorney Tom Reyes with the caption, "She's building our case for us." Tom nearly spit his coffee. This woman just graduated from civil nonsense to felony stupid. By Friday, Harold withdrew the violation. Regina's face when she got the notice must have been priceless. I watched her BMW circle my block 3 times that afternoon like a shark smelling blood. Desperate sharks bite sloppy. 3 days later, the process server showed at 6:30 a.m. Lawsuit. Regina Hawthorne versus Ethan Caldwell. Claiming my neglect devalued the neighborhood by $2 million. Temporary restraining order to keep me off my own land. Her attorney, some $500 an hour shark from the city, threatened everything short of public flogging. I called Tom. "Bring it all," he said. This just opened the door for us to countersue the hell out of her. My crew started digging too. Turns out Regina owed $180,000 in credit cards, mortgage in default. And Lakeshore Lux Developments had quietly bought 3 distressed properties around the lake, right after Regina ramped up enforcement on those owners. Kickback City. Then Tom hit the jackpot. The Willow Lake HOA was never properly incorporated. Missing signatures, rejected filing in 2019. Every fine, every fee, illegal. She'd collected almost $500,000 from 47 families with 0 legal standing. Worse, HOA credit card statements showed spa days, luxury rentals, even a down payment on that Mercedes, all paid with neighbor money. Embezzlement. Wire fraud. Racketeering. The words tasted like victory and coffee. I sat on the porch that night, pine needles crunching under my boots, and felt something I hadn't felt in months. Calm. Regina thought she was playing 4D chess with suburban housewives. She'd just picked a fight with a man who builds foundations for a living. We dig until we hit bedrock. The real war started when she went nuclear. Regina's midnight special came at 2:47 a.m. On a Friday. Glass shattered. Spray paint fumes drifted through the open window. My cameras lit up like Christmas. There she was in crystal clear infrared, Regina in all black, spray painting condemned across Grandpa's workshop in dripping red letters. Then she scattered empty pill bottles and what looked suspiciously like drug paraphernalia around the front steps, trying to manufacture a dangerous neighbor's story so she could justify the restraining order. She even looked straight at one camera, flipped it off, and kept going. I called 911, Tom, and Sheriff Deputy Ramirez in that order. By sunrise, Regina was in the back of a cruiser, mascara running, screaming about misunderstandings while the deputy read her rights. Fingerprints on the paraphernalia. Facial recognition on 3 angles. Game over. The town hall meeting 3 days later was standing room only. Cameras rolling. District Attorney Butler at the front table with FBI Agent Torres. Regina showed up late, clutching a folder like a shield, face the color of old drywall. Tom started simple. Slides of the missing $430,000. Bank records showing her personal deposits. The Lakeshore kickback check dated 2 days after she filed my lawsuit. Gasps turned to angry murmurs. Mrs. Evelyn stood first. She made me mortgage my house to pay fake fines. One by one, 47 families rose. Stories of stress-induced hospital visits, forced sales, ruined retirements. When the vandalism footage played on the big screen, the room exploded. Lock her up, someone yelled. Regina tried to speak. The DA shut her down cold. 23 felony counts. Federal wire fraud, money laundering, racketeering. Mandatory minimums. The judge later added $2.8 million restitution, every penny plus interest. Lakeshore Lux got indicted 2 months later. The unincorporated HOA dissolved overnight. 6 months after that, we dedicated the new Veterans Memorial Garden right on the disputed property line. Native wildflowers, granite stones, Grandpa's favorite quote carved in the center. Nobody can take what you build with your own 2 hands. Lily designed the whole thing. Governor showed up. Property values actually rose once the corruption headlines turned positive. I still sit on that porch every weekend. Loons still call. The workshop still stands. And every time I see a new family move in, I hand them a copy of the incorporation failure paperwork with a smile, just in case your HOA president gets ideas. So here's the question that keeps me up at night, and maybe you too. Was Regina Hawthorne the real criminal here, or was she just the loudest symptom of a system that lets any bored Karen with a clipboard turn a neighborhood into her personal ATM? Drop your answer in the comments. Have you checked your own HOA's paperwork lately? Because the next community improvement meeting might be coming for your house next.